Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He's my co-host, Ryan Blake. Ryan, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing a lot better than I was just a few days ago when the Orioles were getting it handed to them seemingly every night. The Orioles last night, they go out and beat the Texas Rangers 2-1, their second straight victory in the series, third straight overall. I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by Royal Farms. This is the final weekend to take advantage of a great offer from Royal Farms. If you upgrade your ROFO rewards account to include ROFO Pay, you'll save 15 cents per gallon on gas before the month is over. This Tuesday, the annual Chicken Palooza. Man, what a time to give up meat. The annual Chicken Palooza gets underway with great deals on ROFO chicken and limited edition t-shirts and merchandise available. So stop by your neighborhood Royal Farms today for your last chance at a great discount on gas and get ready for Chicken Palooza. So
can I add just a little tidbit about Royal Farms?
Yes.
So I'm a big sunflower seed guy, and there's this company that I've seen on Instagram a lot. Called Smackin'. It's like a new brand of seed. Some dude started it, and they basically have been promoting it by like offering it to players and giving them their choice of flavor, asking them for a rating 1 through 10. And
I've seen those videos.
Yeah, so I've been interested in they've as far as I was aware, only available online. So I was toying with the idea of ordering some of those seeds to give them a try. I'm over at Royal Farms yesterday. They've got Smackin' seeds in stock. So I grabbed some cinnamon churro flavor. Unbelievable seeds. Really a big fan. They got a bunch of flavors. Garlic Parmesan, I'm really excited to try. There's like a cheddar jalapeno. And then they've got your classic dill pickle and, barbecue, things like that. So
ranch, all that good stuff.
They actually don't have ranch. That's the one flavor they don't offer. But, Smackin' seeds are available at Royal Farms now, apparently, or at least at my Royal Farms. So if you're into seeds, hop over to Royal Farms while you're doing Chicken Palooza, getting some gas, grab some Smackin' seeds as well.
I want to clarify here when I said what a time to give up meat. So I gave up meat for about 3 months. So the first time I ever did it was after watching this documentary called The Game Changers. I was 38 years old playing baseball in a men's league 2 falls ago, and everything on my body hurt. Every throw was excruciating. My legs were heavy. My lower back hurt. Some guy turned me onto that documentary, and I gave up meat cold turkey for about 10 weeks. And I lost like 13 pounds. All right. So then this past year, right after the Ravens lost the AFC Championship game, I told my wife I'm giving up meat as soon as the Ravens season is over. I gave it up for 3 months, and I lost 18 pounds. I went from 192 pounds down to 174 pounds. Well, your boy has gained 10 pounds in the last month, and I've been eating meat pretty exclusively. So I think I decided I'm kind of getting back into not eating it again. The only reason I gave it up, it wasn't to lose weight. It was because my family has a history of heart disease and high cholesterol on both sides. Both my grandfathers had heart attacks at, I believe, 52 years old. And my grandfather on my dad's side had a pacemaker. So, and my dad's had heart issues, if we're being honest about it. So the fact that I have a 6-month-old daughter and I'm going to be 40 in September, I want to be around for most of her things, right? So I gave up meat, and it worked out. My cholesterol levels are excellent, glucose, kidney, liver, all fantastic. Blood pressure 116/64. Now that was 3 months ago. I've been eating meat since then. I'm trying to get back into giving it up, and now Royal Farms has Chicken Palooza. And if there's anybody that loves Chicken Palooza, it's your boy Paul Valley. And so I may have to push this non-meat eating thing out another month to take part in Chicken Palooza. Because
I was gonna say, give yourself another week, whatever, a month. Yeah, you got to enjoy Chicken Palooza.
Oh man, I'm gonna go to town on some Rofo chicken. I'm not joking about this. Royal Farms chicken is my all-time favorite chicken. It is unbelievable. So anyway, that is the longest ad read in the history of ad reads. Although FanDuel had a pretty damn long uh um ad. If you listen to the Odyssey app, they don't play it anymore. I think enough people must have complained about it. But there was a FanDuel app that I kid you not, I timed it one day while I was stretching at the gym. It was a minute and 46 seconds of the speed talking disclaimer. You know where they're like, gambling's not allowed in California, Denver, New York. You know where they talk real fast like that. It was a minute and 46 seconds of that. I'm not joking. I timed it. Good. It was unbelievable. Anyway, what's unbelievable right now is what Albert Suarez did last night, going out against the Texas Rangers in, I don't know if this is a revenge series or not. The Orioles have owned the Texas Rangers each of the last 2 seasons in the regular season, but then they got swept in the postseason. So it's their first time facing the Rangers since the ALDS, of which we do not speak. And they win the first game going away. What was it, 9-2? Or is it 11-2? 11-2.
It was 11-2.
I was a game late. I said the Orioles were going to win 9-2 in Grayson Rodriguez's start. And they won like 4-1 or something like that. But or 4-2. But so Corbin Burns, 7 innings of 1-run ball in the series opener. Then Suarez, we're all doubting what Albert Suarez can do. We're all saying this guy's ticketed back to the bullpen. He's been their worst starter the last few times out. He allowed like 19 base runners in 3 starts, or 2 starts. He goes out last night, 3 hits, no walks, 2 strikeouts, 6 shutout innings. Best start of the season. Gives the Orioles everything they need as they go on to win that game 2-1. The bullpen tried to give it away, but Jacob Webb got out of a bases loaded jam there in, what was that, the 8th inning? Yeah, he got out of the
8th, yeah.
7th. The 7th.
No, it was the 7th because Cano came in for the 7th. A couple walks, base hit, and then Webb came in. I think struck out the first guy and then gave up a walk. But yeah, run charge to Cano. He hasn't been sharp. We'll talk to him in a little bit.
Talk to Cano.
Yeah, a great outing from Suarez. Did I say to him? About him. We're going to talk about Cano in a little bit. Yeah, Suarez he did everything we needed last night. He did give up 9 hard hit balls and only struck out those 2 guys. Only got, I think, 5 or 6 whiffs. So not the cleanest outing we've seen from him, but it got the job done. The results are really all that matter. And, we talk about a guy who, might be ticketed back for the bullpen at some point, but right now, who do you replace him with? There's nobody. I mean, Kramer, when he comes back from injury, maybe the Orioles are still trying to figure out next steps for him while he's on rehab. Hasn't been especially sharp in his rehab outings. He's got an 11-something ERA over his first 3 rehab starts. John Means had an 18-something ERA through his first 4 rehab starts, and then we saw what he was able to do before he got injured. Pitched to a 2.61 ERA in 4 starts in the bigs. So don't read too much into these rehab outings.
You're stealing thunder from later in the show. That's all.
Am I? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all good. Colton Cowser, he homered for the 3rd time this week. Solo shot off of future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer, dude comes off an injury. He is in the final year of his contract, and yet he goes out and he gives up hard luck loser last night, gives up 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings. But Colton Cowser, like you put in the notes, Ryan, 3rd home run of the week. He's been hitting the changeup, the off-speed stuff a little bit better recently. Talk a little bit about Colton Cowser and his comfortability at the plate and how much better he's starting to look.
Yeah, well, he waited until he was against me in fantasy to start hitting home runs again. I texted my buddy about that last night. I was like, I love how Colton Cowser finally started hitting home runs the week we played against each other. Look, he looks a lot more comfortable recently. He's shown an ability to lay off those changeups and breaking balls down that have really bit him recently. He tends to roll his top hand over on a lot of changeups that are low in the zone or below the zone. Same with the sliders and curveballs he gets that, bounce near his feet. He's been going after a lot of those. He's shown an ability to lay off. And as a result, he's getting more fastballs out over the plate. And all 3 of his homers this week have come on fastballs that were out over the heart of the plate. So he's been able to wait for his pitch and find what he wants and pulverize it, which is what we saw from him when he had his hot streak at the beginning of the year. He was absolutely crushing fastballs. pitchers adjusted to him, and now he's starting to adjust back. And if that's going to be the case for Cowser, we might be in for another heater, and we're starting to see it already.
Somebody who's been on the heater all year, Gunnar Henderson, 1 for 3, a walk, an RBI single, which ended up being the game-winning run last night. He's reached base safely in 35 consecutive games. Ryan, he has got, according to FWAR, a 6 WAR. There are only 3 players in baseball that had in the American League that had a higher WAR last year, and they were the 3 MVP finalists last season. He is on pace to post the greatest season by a shortstop in Major League history when we're talking about WAR. He's on pace, I think, for 11.9, 12.0 WAR. And
so he's actually, I was going to talk all about Gunnar in soft toss in a little bit, but yeah, he's in fact, I checked again this morning. He picked up another 10th of a B WAR last night, so he's at 6.1 there through 82 games, and he's played 81. So he's on pace in a full 162 game season for 12.2 B WAR, which would be an Orioles franchise record.
It would be a record for a shortstop.
Yeah. I think the last player to put up 12 WAR was Barry Bonds. The last pitcher was Roger Clemens. So it's been a while since we've seen that. He's on pace for 50 plus home runs. The only other shortstop to do that was Alex Rodriguez. So yeah, Gunner's on a heck of a pace, and I'm going to get into that a little more once we get soft toss.
Yennier Cano has, for me, watching Cano this year, he wasn't great in spring training. He came out and he was okay to start the year, but recently it's been like grinding your teeth watching him pitch. He comes in through 11 straight pitches out of the zone to begin his outing last night. Third of an inning, he walked 2, gave up a hit, 1 earned run. He's allowed 6 hits, 5 runs, and has walked 4 in his last 3 1/3 innings pitch. Ryan, you noted in here he might be pitching his way out of a high leverage role if this continues. I think he's firmly pitched himself out of a high leverage role, and I think the only reason he's still in one right now is because the Orioles don't have any other options for that role, which really magnifies the fact that they need to go out and get a relief pitcher or two before or by the deadline. But Cano he's been a shell of the guy that he was last year, in my opinion, all season long.
Yeah, and in his last 6 outings in which he's faced more than one batter, he's walked at least 1. And I'm sorry, in 5 of those 6, he's walked at least 1. And in the other one, he gave up 3 hits and 2 earned runs in an inning of work. So he hasn't been especially sharp. He had a really good run at the beginning of the month. I think he had 5 straight perfect outings, something like that, to begin June. And he just hasn't been able to locate recently. He threw at one point last night 11 straight balls, the first one of which was a called strike, but it was well off the plate. So kind of a gift call there. So 11 straight out of the zone to begin his outing last night. Was able to come back and strike out Nathaniel Lowe. But then, like we said, Jacob Webb came in and walked in one of his runs. So not especially sharp. And I think we're starting to see, he's still in that high leverage role because we don't have Danny Coulomb available for that spot at this point. And Brian Baker has been pitching very well. He gave up one, I think, solo shot on the first pitch of an outing a couple nights ago, but Brian Baker has been really, really good. And so I think we might start to see him get some more of those 8th inning. We've already seen him get an 8th inning. But I think as they try to give Cano a little breather, we're going to see Baker in some more of those high leverage roles.
That's the thing, though, that makes me nervous about Brian Baker is
for
first pitch home run. How often does that happen to him? And it's like it's like he's trying to assert his dominance and get ahead with a 99-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone, and hitters are waiting on it. Yes, Baker has been very good since coming up. He's been a revelation when you look at how bad he was in the minors this year. But yeah, with him, I think we are just like watching Jorge Mateo's offense. With Brian Baker, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop because you know that it's going to at some point. And that's putting him in a high leverage role. Like, that's such a Brandon Hyde thing to do, to put Brian Baker in a high leverage role. And I just and I guess any other manager, if he's pitching that well, would do the same thing. But I don't know, man. It just feels like Brian Baker just feels like a Hyde guy to me for some reason. Like the fact that he was on the postseason roster last year kind of blew my mind with how bad he was down the stretch. I really think that this team, when we're talking about Brian Baker being in a high leverage situation, and a guy like Nick Vespi, who I know you love, and I love Nick Vespi too. He's given up 1 run in 10 innings or something like that. But he's a soft tossing lefty, right? And typically you want guys to throw gas in high leverage situations. And the fact that we're talking about Nick Vespi and Brian Baker being high leverage guys for the Orioles, I think speaks to their need to add relief pitching at the deadline.
Yeah, it speaks to the state of the bullpen for sure. And, you got to ride the hot hand while you can. But like you said, kind of waiting on the other shoe to drop, because we've seen a lot of failure from Brian Baker in his big league stints with the Orioles. A lot of success too. He's had some good stretch runs where he looks like one of the best options out of the bullpen. And right now, I think that is the case. But you never know when it's just going to fall apart for him, because it always seems to happen at some point. Vespi, like you said, he's been great. The results have been great for him, but you don't know what you're going to get, because he's had stretches in AAA too where he's been untouchable, and then he'll have runs where he can't locate the slider down and he's just getting hit around. And when you don't have a 93 plus mile an hour fastball, you're going to end up struggling a little bit. So Vespi's looked good, Baker's looked good, but you never know how long that's going to last. And so we've talked about it. We'll continue to talk about it until it happens. The Orioles absolutely need to make a couple moves for pitching.
And I do like Nick Vespi. I think he belongs on the Major League roster. I think he's a solid middle reliever. I just think you need to have somebody that has electric stuff towards the back end of your bullpen. A guy who's had electric stuff 100%. His entire career, and he's been showing it for the last almost 2 months now. Craig Kimbrell, he notched his first 1-run save of the year last night. He's now third in the American League with 18 saves. And last night, it wasn't even a question. He did give up a base hit, I believe. He allowed a runner on, didn't he? Maybe he
I
did.
don't think so. He struck out the first 2, and then I think a fly out to Cowser to end it.
I think it was a ground out.
That was the night before.
But for some reason, I thought I remembered him allowing somebody on base, but I might be thinking of a different game. Either way, he's allowed 1 earned run on 5 hits since May 8th, with 23 strikeouts in 16 innings over that stretch. Third in the AL in saves. His ERA is what, 2.38 at this point? 2.45.
2.45.
He's a borderline all-star at this point. People in Baltimore might be shocked to hear that, because he had a stretch where it seemed like there was a 4-game stretch where he couldn't get anybody out, and he couldn't throw the ball over the plate. He had a back issue. They gave him 4 days off, and ever since coming back from those 4 days off, he's blown some 1-run saves, but he has been very good. And actually, the 1-run saves, all the blown 1-run saves, the one was against the Yankees 2 weeks ago, and before that, they were all in the first month of the season. And that was one of them shouldn't have been a blown save. It was the first save opportunity. It was a bloop that went 200 feet that should have been caught. It was a bloop and then a sac fly. Literally, it was a bloop. The guy stole second. The guy stole third, and then scored on a sac fly, and they tied the game. The Orioles won that game anyway. But yeah, great.
Yeah. That's
Craig Kimbrell has been very, very good. I mean, look, nobody's going to beat Felix Bautista, but I think if you had told me when the Orioles signed Craig Kimbrell during the offseason that on June 29th he'd have 18 saves and a 2.45 ERA, I'd have signed up for that 100%.
And really, just one disastrous
week.
That's it. He's been absolutely nails aside from that.
And you can tell, the dude, when he's got it, you see the confidence just in his demeanor. You can see it,
Yeah. Oh, you can tell after 2-3 pitches what version of Kimbrell you're going to get, and he really only struggles when he lets that leadoff guy on base, because they're going to run on him. He doesn't have a good pickoff move. He's slow to the plate, so guys are going to run on him. We've seen it in the past, and that's where he gets bit. When he doesn't have that command, and when he's got runners on. Luckily for him and for us, he hasn't allowed a ton of base runners. Like we said, 5 hits since May 8th. That's over a month and a half worth of baseball. 5 hits, just a handful of walks. I think I counted 3 in that time. I didn't put it in the notes, but 23 strikeouts in 16 innings since May 8th, which was the last of his bad outings. yeah, he's been awesome, and we'll get to his all-star case in a few minutes. But yeah,
and
we'll
it
sign up for that
feels
all day.
like the Orioles have been getting him like sufficient rest. Like you're not seeing him pitch 2 days in a row. You haven't really seen him pitch 2 days out of 3. It feels like he'll go out, get a save, and then the Orioles will win a game like 11-4 where they don't need him, and then they'll win a game like 7-2, and then the next thing you know is 3 days later and he's finally getting back in another game. Like he's third in the American League in saves right now, and he's pitching maybe twice a week. It feels like maybe 3 times a week at most. Like they're really getting him sufficient rest, which could bode well going towards the postseason. We're past the halfway mark, man. Now's when we're really starting to think about postseason, what they're going to do to revamp this roster. And before we get into that, I want to remind everybody that if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. But look, the Orioles, they've won 3 games in a row. They've gotten 3 straight quality starts after going 8 consecutive games without a quality. I mean, that stretch, that 8-game stretch, that starting rotation was not good. Like that, where the only guy not getting his doors blown off was Cade Povich, but he was walking the world, right? So like,
yeah,
it was not a good stretch. The Orioles had won 20 of 28. They had won 13 of 20 heading into last week's show. We had no idea that Grayson Rodriguez's blow-up start against Houston, where the Orioles had 4 home runs and still lost 14-11, was the first of 5 consecutive losses and the first of 2 losses during that stretch where they hit 4 homers and lost. Cole Irvin got 17 and 8 runs of support in his last 2 starts, and he's 0-1 with a no decision. He failed to get out of the 5th inning in either of those starts. Grayson Rodriguez, I put out there, I said the Orioles are going to win this game going away 9-2. Grayson Rodriguez is going to go 6 2/3 innings of 2-run ball. Orioles won against the Guardians to salvage a victory in the series. One victory in the 3-game series by going 7 innings of 2-run ball. Then Corbin Burns goes 7 innings of 1-run ball. Then why can't I think Albert Suarez goes? Is it Albert? Yeah. This is
Albert.
Andrew.
There was an Andrew too, but he never
goes
made
6 innings, allows no runs. His best start of the season, or walks for that matter. It's his best start of the season for the Orioles. That's 3 consecutive quality starts. And we're talking about Albert Suarez and how he is probably the odd man out of this rotation when Kramer comes back. And, can you really keep trotting Cole Irvin out there? I don't want last night's start by Suarez to blind anybody to the fact that this team still needs a starting pitcher, right? Because, yeah, he went 6 innings, no runs, 3 hits, no walks. But like you said, 9 hard hit balls last night, 5 swings and misses in 6 innings. Like those peripherals aren't great. And then you look at the fact that Dean Kramer is 0-1 with an 11.42 ERA and 3 rehab starts. He's allowed 14 runs, 11 earned on 15 hits, including 4 home runs and 4 walks in just 8 2/3 innings in his last outing, which they didn't even want him to have the last outing, but he gave them no choice because of how bad he had been. He only goes 4 1/3, 6 hits, 2 walks, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs, and 5 strikeouts. You mentioned John Means had an ERA above 8 in his rehab starts, and then came in and he was above 18.
18. Well, it was 18 through his first 4, and then he had 2 good outings to close it out.
And that was like his spring training. For Dean Kramer, this isn't spring training. You had spring training. You had 9 big league starts before you getting hurt and having to have this rehab outing. What's your level of concern with Dean Kramer? Is this more so him just trying to get his work and get the feel for the pitches, or are you nervous to have him come back into this rotation?
There's a little bit of both. I'm not gonna lie. We've seen sustained runs of success from Kramer. We've also seen him pitch like a 5. So it's tough to tell what you're gonna get. I'm not super concerned. Yeah. Look, I'm not super concerned with his rehab numbers. We talked about John Means, and you are right that was more of a spring training for John Means. Kramer, it's not. So, there's a little more cause for concern with Kramer. but he's not going to pitch to an 11.4 ERA in the bigs. That he's better than that. We know he's better than that. I do think that, in these rehab starts, it's just a matter of getting the pitch count up, working on different things. And it's a good opportunity when you're on a rehab assignment to try new things also. And maybe he's trying a couple new things that just aren't working for him, and he's going to ditch them when he comes back. So the level of concern isn't super high, and I'm going to reserve judgment until we see him make a couple more big league starts and see where he stands. But, the team needs rotation help, and we've got, two guys in Irvin and Suarez who haven't been exceptional and haven't, given us the results we need aside from Suarez last night. So, reinforcements have to be there, and Kramer's going to be one of those reinforcements. Whether that means Irvin or Suarez gets pushed to the bullpen, I don't know. Whether that means Povich gets sent down, which I don't think they want to do, and I don't think they will do. But, Kramer's the sixth option as a starter right now. And beyond him,
right,
who is there, right? Tyler Wells is on the shelf. John Means is on the shelf. Kyle Bradish is on the shelf. So, they don't have a lot of other options. So we're going to have to give Kramer a chance to pitch his way back into the rotation. And, I'm excited to see how he does. I love Dean Kramer. I think he's a dog. I think he's got a fire that he pitches with, especially when things aren't going well. He knows how to kick it up a notch. And I come back to Kramer's mentality on the mound, and I think about that game that I mentioned before in DC last year where he allowed a base runner to start the inning, and then there was a play that it should have been a pick by Ryan O'Hearn at first base, and he just missed it. It was an easy pick.
Was that the one where it wasn't even a pick, and then he goes out? He just missed it.
It might have been. I remember it being a play that absolutely should have been made. And Kramer responded by striking out the next three batters, including 4 of the 7 hardest pitches he had thrown in his career to that point. That's the mentality I want in a starting pitcher, and Kramer's got it in spades. So I'm excited for him to come back. It's no secret that we need help on the pitching side of things. And hopefully these rehab numbers are just a factor of him working on things that, aren't going to last. And I'd like to see him back to his normal self. So they're still figuring out next steps for him. If he's going to make another rehab start, I would imagine he will, just because of those numbers. And maybe they'll look for him to go, 5 innings, give up no more than 2 runs, strike out some more batters.
I don't think he gets another rehab start. I think I think he's coming back to the rotation. I think he's pitching for the Orioles next week. And I like Dean Kramer. I do. And I love the fact that, like, he came over, and it was the who was the guy who came over in the Manny Machado trade who was supposed to be like the star of that trade? Thank you.
Yusniel Diaz.
That it just shows how much he fell off that I couldn't remember his damn name. I would have gotten there eventually, but Yusniel Diaz was supposed to be the centerpiece of that trade to get for Machado, and I think it turned out to be Dean Kramer. And you look at it, when he came over, he was leading the minor leagues in strikeouts. We saw him come up in 2020, and his first start against the Yankees, he allowed 1 hit, and I think it's 6 innings. And then he kind of fell off, and then he was really bad in 2021, and then 2022. He started the season not great. He started the season on the IL. He was warming up in the bullpen that first week, and he strained his oblique. Then he comes back, and it's not a great start. And the next thing you know, he's the best pitcher on the team, especially down the stretch there. He ended up that season with a 3.21 ERA. Last year, the first month wasn't great, and then he had a 3.56 ERA from the beginning of May on last year. And I think over those 2 seasons, his ERA was 3.74 with 21 wins. Great. Dean Kramer is a legitimate big league starter. He's a solid number 4, number 5 in a rotation. My worry is that they're depending on him to be a little bit more than that. I think they're depending on him to come back and be a number 3. And I don't think that's what he is. If you're depending on him to, like, if he's the 3rd guy starting for you in a postseason, I know that maybe you like that dog in him. I saw and I know the circumstances were not great. Israel's going through what they were going through when he's making that start. He got absolutely lit up. But I also saw him get lit up against Cleveland when the Orioles needed a big start out of him last year. And so that makes me nervous. And so with that in mind, I know the Orioles need to go out and get a starting pitcher. It's been noted that they have been, searching around for starting pitching, for like elite starting pitching. in the trade market. There's two guys that we didn't talk about last week. Well, the first guy that we talked about was Jesus Luzardo, and it was almost like we talked about all this stuff on the show last week that like Gunnar Henderson hadn't been caught stealing, and then he got caught stealing, I think, twice last week. We were talking about how good the Orioles starters have been aside from Grayson's start, and then they all just completely fell off a cliff. Talking about how this was the best team in baseball, and they lose 5 straight. All the stuff that we said last week, the opposite happened immediately, right?
It all aged poorly right away. And Luzardo hit in the IL. He was already kind of day-to-day. He had been pulled from his last start. And, he's back on the shelf for the second time this year. He's got an ERA over 5. Still, I think a decent trade piece, but I'm not sure the Marlins are interested in moving him at this point.
He's on the 60-day
Is he on the 60
IL.
now?
He got a back injury literally that day, and he was placed on the 60-day IL, which essentially, like, he might come back in September, but what the hell would be the point of that? What would be the point of that for a team that's that bad? You're not showcasing him. Maybe you're showcasing him to trade him in the off season, but the deadline will be passed by the time he gets back. Legitimately, it happened like an hour after the show ended last week. So two guys that we didn't talk about last week. And the first guy I'm going to mention, because people keep bringing it up. You see it from fans everywhere. Trevor Bauer. 10-0, 166 ERA, 110 strikeouts, and 76 innings pitched in Mexico. He struck out 19 batters in a game not that long ago. Yep.
Mexican League record.
And he's willing to pitch for the league minimum. But there's a reason he's pitching that well and is still pitching in Mexico. There's a reason that despite being exonerated from the charges that the one woman placed against him, that he's not pitching in the majors. There's 4 other women that have made complaints about Trevor Bauer. 4. Maybe this is just the worst luck ever, or maybe when there's smoke, there's fire. There
it is.
Yeah.
I knew that was coming.
That's funny. I mean, how can you not say it, right? Like Trevor Bauer, he's a former Cy Young Award winner, one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's at his best. But he's not going to pitch for the Baltimore Orioles. If they were planning on signing him, he'd be signed by now. Yeah, if he's not what seems like a scumbag of a human being, he's probably on a big league roster right now. It makes the most sense. A former Cy Young winner, still in the prime of his career, who is willing to pitch for the league minimum, which is a pro rata payday at this point. It makes the most sense in the world. But it ain't happening. It ain't happening. But we got to talk about it because people keep bringing him up like this is a thing that the Orioles might do. They're not going to do that. They're absolutely not going to do that. Any thoughts from you, Ryan, before we move on to the next guy?
Not really. I don't want to give him too much time. I think that the Orioles care a lot about their clubhouse culture, and even if there weren't any of these charges out there against Bauer, he's still, even before that, he had kind of showed that he was kind of a piece of crap of a person, right? Like he was already kind of an ass. So I don't think they want to bring in a guy like that who is all about himself, less about the team. And I don't see it. Yeah, he's pitching well in Mexico. Yeah, he would probably help this team out, but I don't.
I remember him when he was pitching. I think he was pitching for Cincinnati in Kansas City, and the manager came out to take him out of the game. And instead of giving the manager the ball, he turned around and from the mound. It was an impressive throw. He chucked the baseball. Didn't he throw it over the K in Kauffman Stadium? I know he threw it over. It was over the center field wall.
It was over the center field wall.
I thought I heard somebody say he threw it over the K, but maybe somebody was just being facetious. But he launched a 300 throw.
That's back in. Yeah, and he did that. That was back when he was with Cleveland. I only remember that because he did it right in front of Terry Francona's face, and then got a mouthful as he was walking off the mound. I mean, Francona's a heck of a manager. You don't show up your manager like that. You don't show up your teammates like that. Yeah, and that's kind of Exhibit A. Even if all these allegations weren't out there, that's the
Mhm.
kind of guy he is. And yeah, and you see the arrogance with him, with the Conor McGregor strut and the swords, and like, yeah, look, I don't mind the celebrations, right? It's fine, but it speaks
Yeah.
to his character a little bit. And he'll go out there sometimes and like tell the opposing batter, like, this is what I'm going to throw, and I'm still going to beat you. And like, sure, that's an okay mentality to have, I guess, but it also it leads to a lot of arrogance. And yeah, I just don't think he'd be a good fit personality wise on this team.
And I think that's like
And
the fairest point you
yeah,
can make. You know what I mean? Like yeah, he might be a scumbag and he has these allegations against him, but at this point, in America, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, right? And these allegations right now, as they're allegations, but he's not a good person. He's not a good teammate. Like he's a clubhouse cancer. Like you look at the vibes that this team has, and a lot of their winning is because they all just love each other. It's like a brotherhood in there, and you want to put somebody in there who could completely disrupt that. I mean, clubhouse culture is huge for this team, like you said.
right. Yeah. And look, we don't know, right? We don't know how much of this story is true, how much
Mm-hmm.
of it's fabricated. What we do know is it's probably worse for Bauer than he leads on, right? There's a reason he hasn't, sued Major League Baseball. There's a reason that, these things haven't been taken to a court where a lot of this
Mm-hmm.
evidence is going to come out, right? There's a lot of things that are still kind of behind curtains at this point. So look, maybe he's innocent. I don't know, right? I'm not
Yeah.
going to vouch for the guy. Maybe he is, maybe he deserves to be scot-free.
Right.
I don't know that. But regardless, he's not the kind of personality that would fit into
If
this
you
roster.
look at this thing to the left, to your right, like if you look on the screen, if I were to go like this, you would think I was sitting next to you. It's kind of like you see the little
Yeah,
like
little
for
bit.
some reason I was like, that looks like I'm sitting next to him. Anyway,
Oh,
yeah,
this right here, the little sleeve.
it almost looked like I was sitting next to you for
What
a
is
second.
that?
But
Oh,
anyway,
I took off a door.
it's a door.
This
Yeah,
right
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
It's a door. Yeah, it's a door that's laid down, propped up against the wall because I took it out and I haven't put it in the
that's
garage
like
yet.
behind you. It looks like it's right next to you. Wow, that's random. Anyway, next guy, and I thought about this after he came back and made his first start of the season last Sunday. Max Scherzer. And if any starting pitcher makes the most sense for the Baltimore Orioles the rest of the way, it's Max Scherzer. Again, tough luck loser last night. He allowed 2 earned runs in 5 1/3 innings pitched. He had 5 innings of 1 hit ball, his first start back. Fastball isn't what it used to be, but he's the guy locates. He knows how to pitch. He's Mad Max for a reason. He's 1-1, 174 ERA, very small sample size, just 2 starts this season. But Ryan, he's a free agent at the end of the year. Texas is 37-44. They're 9 games back in the division and 8 games back in the wild card. At this point last year, they were 49-33. And they finished the season 18-23 in 41 games and back into the playoffs, but won the World Series. I mean, they're 8 games back of a wild card right now. Their offense just cannot get it going. If you ask me, Max Scherzer might be the cheapest option for you as far as what you'd have to give up to get him. And he would make the most sense. All that playoff experience, one of the best pitchers of all time, and he's still proving that he can pitch well at the big league level. I think that he makes so much sense for the Orioles to go after in trade. People were talking about Verlander, who's on the 15-day IL, and his age is starting to show on him a little bit. Max Scherzer, I think, should be a Baltimore Oriole.
Yeah, it's interesting because I hadn't even considered it until you texted me last night and you were like, I want to talk about Max Scherzer as a potential trade candidate. It's very interesting and it does make a ton of sense, right? He's got the track record, he's got the ability. So yeah, look, I could absolutely see it happening. The one thing that I think might stand in the way is I'm not sure, even with their record, I'm not sure the Rangers are going to view themselves as sellers unless they get truly buried over the next month. They're going to have Jacob deGrom coming back. They're going to have Tyler Mahle coming back to help reinforce that rotation. I don't know exactly when either of those guys are due back, but I'm pretty certain they're due back at some point this year. So I think the Rangers' mindset at this point is probably, look, yeah, it's been a rough, start to the season. It's been a rough first half for us, but if we can sneak into that last wild card spot, we can go on another run like we did last year. And they made it as a
No,
did they
they were
win
a
their
wild
division
card.
last year by a game? They were a wild card, but I think they won 89 or 90 games, fell a game short of the division
Oh
from the
no, they
Astros.
won their division. They won the division. They did.
Did I know it was those three teams, the Astros, the Rangers, and the Mariners were all kind of like a game or two apart for the last
The
week of
Astros
the
and the
season.
Rangers had the same record, but I think that I think the Rangers took 2 of 3 in the final series of the season to win the season series. If I'm remembering correctly, I might not be, but I feel like that's what happened.
Yeah, it sounds right. It was something with 2 of those teams were facing off for the last weekend series. I don't remember exactly how it went, but the point I'm trying to make is that if these guys think that they are going to get these reinforcements back, and Jacob deGrom still, I think, when healthy, one of the best pitchers on the planet. He's missed
He
a
hasn't
ton
been
of
healthy
time
since
and
2019.
come back.
Actually,
and been really
2020,
well.
which was he had
Right.
made 12 starts that year because it was a shortened season.
Right, but even when he's been on the mound, despite all these injuries around it, he's pitched very well. So they're going to get him back. They're going to get Malley back, like I said. And so I'm not sure they view themselves as sellers, because if they can sneak into that spot, they're going to have the rotation to make a run in the playoffs again. So I don't know if the Rangers are going to be willing to trade a guy like Scherzer, but if they are, and if they're still out of it, this time next month, I could absolutely see them moving a guy like Scherzer, and I think he'd be an excellent
Let's
fit
see.
here.
Is the trade deadline this year is July 30th. It was the last couple of years, it's gone to like August 2nd. But I think it's also, I think they like to have it be like don't they like to have it be like on a Sunday is the last day or something like that?
I don't know. I always thought it was always July 31st at 4 p.m. and now it's like some date around there at 6
Yeah,
p.m. I don't know. I don't know what it is now.
It's July 30th now. So you look at the Rangers schedule because they like to have it be on a Tuesday for some reason. Because I was like, in my mind, I'm like, it's either Sunday or a Tuesday. Last year it was on a Tuesday. You look at it, Texas, the rest of the up until that deadline, they've got 2 more with Baltimore. They've got 3 at home with San Diego, 3 at home with Tampa Bay, who has been playing a lot better recently. Then they go to the Angels, and then they go to Houston before the All-Star break, and then they host Baltimore, the White Sox, and then they go to Toronto and they go to St. Louis heading into the trade deadline. Their schedule's not that difficult. Like, San Diego's good. They're playing better. The Orioles are obviously one of the best teams in baseball, but like they can beat Tampa Bay. They can beat the Angels. They can beat the White Sox. They can beat the Blue Jays. They can beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals are playing better. They're in a wild card spot right now, but it's like none of these teams except really the Orioles and Houston. And Houston, the Orioles are the only team I think that are like well above 500 of that entire stretch of games. So maybe Max Scherzer, like I think he makes a lot of sense. I think he makes the most sense.
He does.
But Texas' schedule, I think you're right, Ryan. I think they look at their schedule and they say, we can win a lot of these games. We're gonna make a run for this. Now, if they let's say they have how many games they have left? They have game 83. They've got 25 games. If they're 6-12 through the first 18 games of that stretch, I think that they have to sell, right? Like not sell, but they have to say, hey, we're not in this. You know what I mean? But like, and then if you look at what they're looking at down the stretch, they've got Boston, Houston, New York, Boston, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. They've got some tough games. Everybody's got easy games the rest of the way, but they've got some really tough games in there too. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that they're going to be kind of in a wait and see approach with regards to who they'd be willing to trade, or if they're going to be buyers or sellers at the deadline, because their schedule, I think, plays out nicely for them. But all that said, Max Scherzer is the guy who I would be targeting if I'm the Baltimore Orioles. And if Texas can get something for him in the last year of his contract, who knows, he might retire at the end of this year. I think it's something worth considering. Now, a lot of Orioles are being considered for the All-Star game. Ryan, you came up with this segment, so I'm going to let you take the reins on here, and I'll just give my opinions on each thing. But the Orioles have an AL Best 6 All-Star finalists. Let's get into it.
Yeah, AL Best 6 ties them with the Phillies for the major league lead for All-Star finalists. Orioles fans really showed out in this vote. There were a lot of close ones that Orioles players seemed to pull away. Adley Rutschman held a lead against Royals Salvador Perez for a long time. Adley, I think, was the highest vote getter, not named Judge or Soto. It was either Adley or Gunnar. They were 2 and 3, I believe. But Adley Rutschman's a finalist again, and he'll go up against Salvador Perez for a starting spot. Ryan Mountcastle took the lead over Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I personally think that Josh Naylor should have been a finalist as well, but Vlad has really picked it up as of late. But Mountcastle, the leading vote getter at first base, he'll go up against Vlad. Jordan Westberg made it over Rafael Devers. That was one where after the first voting update, Westberg was in second place, but had a pretty slim lead over Devers, and then pulled away, and he'll go up against Jose Ramirez, who was the leading vote getter at third. Gunnar Henderson, MVP candidate, of course. He'll go up against Bobby Witt Jr., who another MVP candidate, but at this point, clearly trailing Gunnar. But that'll be a fun matchup. Gunnar crushed him in the vote in the first phase, so hopefully that continues in the second. Ryan O'Hearn
great late push.
Was, as of the second voting update, he was in fourth place, but he only trailed Giancarlo Stanton by about 40,000 votes, and David Fry was in third place in the middle there. And we got O'Hearn over both of them. So he'll go up against Yordan Alvarez for the starting DH spot. Alvarez probably is going to take that one just purely based on his name. Obviously, he's been great this year, of course, but nice to see O'Hearn make it as a finalist. And then in the outfield, Aaron Judge was the leading vote getter, so he gets an automatic start. And as a result, they're only taking 4 outfielders. Had a different position earned the starting spot, they would have taken 6 outfielders into the final vote, and Colton Cowser finished in 6th place, so he would have been a finalist, but unfortunately is not. Anthony Santander did make it. He'll go up against Juan Soto, Stephen Kwan, and Kyle Tucker. 2 of those 4 gentlemen will start the All-Star game alongside Aaron Judge in the outfield. The only position, Paul, in which the Orioles did not have a finalist was second base, and Jorge Mateo finished 3rd. Behind, I believe, Jose Altuve and Marcus Semien. So Mateo got himself a nice little push there as well. So of these 6 finalists, Paul, how many of them do you think will win their second phase of voting and be elected starters? And then how many do you think make the squad as reserves, even if they don't win? So I
think Adley and Gunnar are going to start. I think Adley and Gunnar are going to start. Ryan Mountcastle, I'm surprised. He's deserving of being there. Like, it doesn't seem like he's having that great of a year because the home runs are down, but he's one of the leading doubles hitters in the American League. The average has been consistently between 270 and 280 all year, and he's playing a Gold Glove caliber first base again. And it's just it's nice to see one, like, you're not just going to get him in there just because of all the Orioles fans that voted. So he's getting some recognition from fans outside of Baltimore. I think that a lot of it had to do with Orioles fans, but the fact that he was the leading vote getter at first base, was he the leading vote getter at first base? Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Jordan Westberg against Jose Ramirez, like getting back to Mountcastle, I'm sorry, Vladdy Jr., he's going to start because of the name recognition. You already alluded to that. And I think it's so. Same thing with third base. One, even if they were having comparable seasons, Ramirez's name recognition alone will get him to start. But Ramirez is having he's an MVP candidate. He's going to start at third base, and he should. But Jordan Westberg 100% deserves to be there. He's the next best third baseman in the American League. And in my opinion, it's not particularly close. What he offers defensively and offensively, there's not another player aside from Jose Ramirez that's as good as him, in my opinion. O'Hearn versus Alvarez.
Yeah.
O'Hearn, the fact that he doesn't get much run at all against left-handed pitching, I think hurts him. I mean, Alvarez hits against everybody. Alvarez is going to be a starting DH. But O'Hearn deserves the accolades because he's been that dude. Every time that he comes up and the Orioles need a hit, I think it feels like he gets it. Obviously that's not true, but it feels like he gets the hit every time they need it. And here's the other thing. So, like, last year, it was Adley and Jonah Heim as finalists for the starting catcher, right? And Jonah Heim somehow beat Adley out. And Adley still was a reserve. if it's down to 2 people per position and it's the finalist, isn't the person that doesn't win the start, don't they make the team?
Not necessarily. I think the reserves are voted on by, I believe,
Okay.
coaches around the league. It might be a player vote. I think the coaches pick the pitchers and the players vote on the reserves. Um, so, and look, the other factor is every team
Yeah,
needs a
that's true.
representative, right? So I look at a team like the Red Sox, and it's tough to know who's going to represent them, right? They've got Tanner Houck, who's been one of the best pitchers in the American League. I think he likely gets it as gets in as a pitcher. But I look at third base, and Rafael Devers is right there. I look um, at the outfield, and Jarren Duran, who did not put up a good showing in the fan vote. I think he's been one of the better outfielders in baseball this year, and I think he'll get some recognition from his peers. Um, and so maybe we see a couple Orioles who get snubbed purely because other teams need a representative somewhere. Like the Tampa Bay Rays, it's you look at their roster and it's hard to pick who deserves it from them. Maybe it's Isaac Paredes, their third baseman, and maybe he makes it, and as a result, Westberg doesn't get a spot because the peers have voted for
Hmm.
Devers or something. Who knows? It's really tough to tell. But in any event, I think Adley and Gunnar are going to start, and it'd be nice if this team can put together 3, 4, 5 additional reserves. And you look at the pitching, Corbin Burns is going to be there. It's I think all but a formality at this point. Grayson Rodriguez, I think his start in Houston
He's
probably
got
pitched his
9
way
wins
out
though,
of it.
doesn't he?
Um, he does have 9 wins, but his ERA is closer to
Yeah.
4 than it is 3. So that might be a knock against him. There's a lot of good pitchers in the American League. But Craig Kimbrell, he probably has a better case than we realize. And, we talked about how good he's been. I think when you look at relievers in the American League, you're going to have Emmanuel Clase there. You're probably going to have Clay Holmes there. You're going to have Mason Miller there. How many relievers, how many
Hmm.
closers do they take, right? It seems they typically bring about 4 to 5. And I think Kimbrell certainly has a case. And another factor that I think could lead them to pick Kimbrell is, we saw a couple years ago, they brought in Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols, who had been, near the tail ends of their career and, weren't playing exceptionally well, but, you want stars at the All-Star game, right? Craig Kimbrell's a
Hmm.
future Hall of Famer. And so, I think that will bode well for his case. And the fact that he's pitched exceptionally well outside of one bad week, he's got a great case. Third in the American League in saves with 18. So there's going to be a lot of Orioles representing the team in Texas, and hopefully it's closer to that 6 or 7 number than it is 3 or 4. But I'm just concerned that a couple of these guys who are deserving are going to miss out because other
Yeah, I
teams need
think the
representatives.
most likely guys to miss out are going to be Anthony Santander and Ryan O'Hearn. I think Ryan O'Hearn, they just like
I agree.
he doesn't hit against lefties. Santander is hitting like 221, and he's got like 3 hits in his like last 25 at bats. And yeah, he's had 12 home runs in the month of June, which is awesome. He leads the majors in home runs this month, but the totality of his season is not all-star worthy. You know, like the
Right.
home runs are great, but the batting average is way down. And then Ryan Mountcastle, I think deserves to be there. I don't know that he will be. I don't know that.
Yeah, it could end up being
Right,
Vlad and Josh Naylor. Like we don't know how many
right.
positions these guys are going to take. The other thing I want to point out too is we saw in 2015, I believe it was, Royals fans showed up in spades for the All-Star voting, and they got Alcides Escobar a starting spot. He was one of the worst
Mhm.
shortstops in baseball that year. Um, all of these Orioles who made it as finalists, it's not just because the Orioles fans showed up to vote, which is awesome, but it's because they
They're
have legitimate
really
cases to
good.
be
Like
all-star
they're
starters.
really good.
So yeah, so this isn't an Oriole fan ballot stuffing thing. This is the results of all of these players being very good in the first half of the season. And so, that in itself is exciting, whether or not we get, a couple of
Yeah,
snubs. We'll
I'm
see.
and what I'm trying to look up here real quick, before we get into anything else. I want to look at the WAR leaders, and Adley Rutschman's the leader in WAR, at 6.1 in B WAR, right? But then if you go back and you look at the Orioles team, and the number 10 is Riley Green for Detroit, 3 point. Wow, I didn't realize he was having that kind of a year. Riley Green for Detroit, 3.6 WAR. Right. You look at the Orioles' number 2 player in WAR. It's Adley Rutschman at 3.3, and then Jordan Westberg at 3.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Westberg deserves to be an all-star. Ryan O'Hearn, 1.7 WAR, but he's a DH. He's mainly a DH for this team. But look, like some of these guys, and that like Westberg, he deserves to be there. Rutschman's going to be. He's going to start. Gunnar Henderson's going to start, but some of these guys really absolutely deserve to be there. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. It might be, I think Westberg would get chosen by the coaching staff or by the manager. I don't know that Mountcastle or Santander have the star power or the recognition to get there yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the outfield, I think Jarren Duran and Riley Green are both all-stars, and I think that does not bode well for Santander's case. You look at first base, Mountcastle's power numbers haven't been there over the last month. Vladimir Guerrero has 5 homers in his last 7 games. Josh Naylor is already up above, I think, 20 on the season. Carlos Santana is having a good year. And then even at third base, you look at guys who are worthy of reserve spots. I mean, we talked about Jose Ramirez, Rafael Devers, of course. Isaac Paredes is a guy I mentioned. Josh Smith with Texas is having a great year. He has a chance to be one of their representatives. So we'll see. Like I said, it's a lot of these guys who aren't going to make it. It's not going to be because they don't deserve it. It's going to be because, other teams need representatives and there's going to be some balance. So we'll see what happens. But in any event, to have 6 all-star finalists, it just speaks to what this offense has been capable of. And they're going to have at least one representative on the pitching side as well. So good stuff from the Orioles. Shout out to the fans for going out and voting. And shout out to these guys for playing their way into it.
Oh, for sure. It's been awesome to see, and the Orioles are going to have a ton of representatives at the All-Star game, which is going to make watching it that much cooler for those of us, because then you get to watch the guys that start, and then you get to watch the reserves come in, and it gives you reason to watch more of the game. Because I don't know about you, I remember watching games and just watching when I thought that like Ty Wigginton was going to get it, and even though, God, I hated Ty Wigginton. Oh my goodness. Anyway. A long way. Nick Markakis should have been the rep. He led the league in WAR that year, and it was Ty Wigginton who made the All-Star team. Anyway, I digress.
A travesty that Markakis never made it as an Oriole. Although I know he made it as a Brave. Did he start that game?
In right
he
field,
made it as a Brave
as a Brave. He should have been like a 5-time All-Star, and the fact he only made it once is mind-blowing to me. What's mind-blowing to me is if you haven't picked up the latest edition of Press Box, which is available now. On the cover, Maryland Governor Wes Moore sits down with Press Box to discuss the sports topics significant to his administration, including the stadium and grounds lease for the Orioles, the future of horse racing in the state, and much more. Also, this is our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities throughout the state that you and your family can take advantage of this summer. You can find the new Press Box all throughout the region, including at 60 Royal Farm stores, and read it all starting Monday at PressBoxOnline.com. That was last week's read. Everything's the same except starting Monday because it started this past Monday. So it's already available at PressBoxOnline.com. AL East wrap-up. Jose Siri swatted a pair of solo homers. Zach Eflin delivered 6 scoreless innings, and the bullpen allowed just 1 earned run as the Rays took the first of 3 against the Nationals 3-1 to return to 500. Despite trailing 3-1 entering the 6th inning, the Yankees were able to put up a 16 spot on the Jays, including homers from Juan Soto and Gleyber Torres. Aaron Judge and Jahmai Jones added 3 hits apiece as the Yankees were able to avoid a 5-game losing streak. It was not a banner night for the Jays bullpen, which allowed 12 runs in 4 innings. On the bright side for Toronto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit his 5th homer in 7 games, despite the 16-5 loss at the hands of the Yankees. And finally, a Rafael Devers homer wasn't close to enough as Nick Pivetta and Greg Weissert, is that how you pronounce his name? Weissert? And Greg Weissert combined to allow 9 runs in the first 5 innings, which would prove to be an insurmountable deficit. Padre center fielder Jackson Merrill, a childhood Red Sox fan, despite being a Severna Park native, launched a 3-run shot right at his mother, who was sitting in the center field seats at Fenway Park. All 9 Padres starters scored 1 run apiece as they took down the Red Sox 9-2. All right, Ryan, you did this part. I'm going to let you do it. What's up for today's game?
Yeah, we got Cade Povich. He'll take the hill for the Orioles this evening. It is City Connect Hawaiian shirt giveaway night. I will be there. I'm sure 40,000 other people will be there too. The game will be nationally televised. Yeah, sold out. The game will be nationally televised. tonight on Fox. Povich came up 1 out shy of a quality start on Monday against Cleveland, but he took the loss as he was outdone by Tanner Bybee. A Jose Ramirez home run in the top of the 6th was his undoing there. He's still in search of his first MLB win, entering his 5th start, but he is rocking a respectable for a rookie at least, 4.15 ERA. The Rangers will counter with popular trade candidate, at least last year, in Michael Lorenzen. Lorenzen is 4-3 with a 3.04 ERA, a 1.16 WHIP so far this season. In June, Paul, he's 2-0 with a 2.51 ERA. He also pitched to an ERA under 3 in May. So Lorenzen has been having a nice run of success here. The Orioles lineup, Paul, unless I missed it, I didn't see any updates from Brandon Hyde on the status of catcher Adley Rutschman and that hand injury. I know x-rays came back negative. I know he was a little sore yesterday morning. I don't believe we got a post-game update. We can only hope he's back in the lineup. He took a foul tip off of his finger the other night. Looked pretty bad, but he was able to stay in the game and then went on to hit a home run. So, maybe it's just one of those cases where the swelling didn't really show up until later. So I put a projected lineup based on the assumption that Adley will be back in the lineup. Of course, we don't know that for sure, but I've got Gunnar Henderson starting at shortstop, Adley Rutschman catching, Ryan O'Hearn as the DH, Ryan Mountcastle batting 4th at first base, Anthony Santander in right field batting 5th, Colton Cowser in left field batting 6th, Jordan Westberg at 3rd batting 7th, Cedric Mullins batting 8th in center field, and Jorge Mateo batting 9th playing second base. It felt bad, Paul, to leave Heston Kjerstad out of this lineup. He has shown very well in his opportunities since he was called back up. But, man, we've got so many outfielders who are playing well right now. Cedric Mullins is hitting over 400, I think, in his last 15 or 16 starts. The power numbers are starting to show up again. Colton Cowser, we've already talked about, has 3 home runs this week. I don't know how you leave those guys on the bench unless it's a scheduled rotation. But Kjerstad out of the lineup last night. I don't see a role for him tonight unless they want to maybe give Ryan O'Hearn an evening off. Although he's been a mainstay in the lineup against righties, so I'm really not sure what's going to happen there. But we talked about on the show last week, it's hard to predict the outfield starting lineup with so many guys playing well, and so many of these guys who have been riding the bench starting to show out a little bit.
I think Adley's going to play. I think that yesterday, the fact that he suffered the hand injury and still hit a home run later in the game bodes well. And I think that Brandon Hyde probably looked at yesterday as an opportunity to just give Adley a day off. He's like, look, that he has a hand injury. He could play if we needed him to tonight, but let's give him a full day off and put him back in the lineup on Saturday. I think you're going to see Rutschman play today. Santander got the day off yesterday, right? Yeah, so he's going to play today. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mullins get a day. Maybe have Cowser in center field and put Heston Kjerstad in left field.
I could see that. That's the one thing I considered. Mullins has started the last 2 nights and is seeing the ball very well. He's got a lot of multi-hit games recently. I gave Mullins the veteran benefit of the doubt just because of his performance recently, but I could absolutely see Cowser in center and Kjerstad in left.
We stated on the show, I really wanted the Orioles to sign Michael Lorenzen towards the end of the offseason. I didn't want him at the trade deadline last year because he was coming up. He hadn't thrown more than 134 innings. His career high in innings was 134, and it was way back in 2018. And then he was already at 100. He was approaching 100 and some. He was approaching that by the deadline last year. He went out and had a couple of really good starts, including a no-hitter for the Phillies, and then he completely fell off the radar to the point where he wasn't even on their postseason roster. But I said to you on this show during spring training that this is a guy who threw 154 innings last year, and I expect him to be able to give them 180 quality innings this year and really go out and pitch well. That was a guy I really wanted, and he could be a trade candidate for the Orioles. Michael Lorenzen having a really good season there. I don't – what's that?
Could be. And signed to a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. So if the Rangers do sell, he's a guy whose name.
I agree, and I think he's somebody the Orioles could take a serious look at. I don't really have any issues with your lineup. I think that's pretty accurate. I think that you could see Cowser, you could see Kjerstad batting 6th and playing left field, and Cowser batting 8th. playing center field with Mullins, getting a day off. They've got to figure out ways to get some of these hot bats into the lineup. And Mullins has been a really hot bat, but Kersad came up from the minors the second time around and just continued doing what he was doing at AAA. So
Kerstad looks solid defensively too. I mean, he's never going to be an elite outfielder, but he's getting to the balls he should be getting to. He's got a slightly above average arm. I would say
his arm's been more accurate than Kowser's has been.
Yeah, I mean, Kowser's got a hose. Exactly. He has no idea where it's going. We've seen those throws that go halfway up the third base line. When he's overthrowing it.
That's the main issue. Is though you can see by the way the ball tails that he's just putting way too much on it and not getting a good throw off. Today's show brought to you by County Sports Zone and buyatoyota.com. While high school sports season has come to an end for this year, County Sports Zone will be providing great high school sports content all summer long. For the latest in coaching changes, football previews, and more, check out County Sports Zone, countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. What is on tap for today? Or I'm sorry, go ahead,
Paul. Can I run a quick soft toss before we
was going to get to
what's
soft toss at the end. I was going to get to soft toss at the end because I just want to get through these parts, and then we'll do soft toss and then take the rake. All right. So what's on tap after tonight's nationally televised game? The O's and Rangers will follow that up with an appearance on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. First pitch is 7:10 p.m. Lefties Cole Irvin and Andrew Heaney will face off. Hopefully, the O's will be looking for a 4-game sweep, a.k.a. a mop. The Orioles will have the day off Monday. It's more of a travel day as they're heading out to Seattle for their final West Coast trip before the All-Star break. They've got 3 in Seattle, 3 in Oakland, and then they return home. And then we will go from there. Ryan, go ahead and softly toss one up for us.
Yeah, I want to talk about Gunnar Henderson because obviously we know what he's done this year. Obviously, we're well aware of the pace that he's on. But with yesterday, before yesterday's game, right, we were at the 81 game mark. So it was easy to extrapolate his numbers out to a full season. And these are the paces that Gunnar Henderson is on right now. He had one off day in the first half, and let's assume he gets one more off day in the second half. So he's on pace to play 160 games. Batting average 290, on base 390. He's going to slug 610. So he's on pace for an 1,000 OPS. The Orioles' record in a season was Jim Gentile back in 1961, who had a 1069 OPS. Well within reach. He'll need to have a better second half than he did a first half to reach that number, which, no easy task. But if anybody can do it, I think it's Gunnar Henderson. He's on pace for 52 home runs. The Orioles record, Chris Davis in 2013 hit 53. So we could see Gunnar break the Orioles single season home run record and get up there with the record for shortstop. Alex Rodriguez has it, I think, at like 59. He never had 59, but
upwards of 50. No, he had 57.
57. That's right. So Gunnar could make a run at that. He's on pace for 114 RBI out of primarily the leadoff spot, which is exceptional. He's on pace for 144 runs scored, and the Orioles single season record is 132. So Gunnar well on pace to break the single season record there. On top of all the offensive prowess, 26 stolen bases is his pace, which is to have a guy who can hit like that and also will provide speed on the bases is pretty awesome. Another Orioles record for which Gunnar is on pace, total bases. The Orioles record 370. That was also Chris Davis. Gunner's on pace for 386 total bases. And then we talked about his WAR pace a little bit earlier, on pace for a 12 WAR. And he's got very comparable WAR on both Baseball Reference and Fangraphs. It was 6 on both of them going into yesterday's game. Like I said, he picked up a 10th of a win according to Baseball Reference last night. So he currently sits at 6.1 over there. The Orioles records, Paul, Cal Ripken Jr.'s 1991 MVP season. He had an 11.5 B WAR and a 10.6 F WAR. Gunnar currently on pace to break both of those records. So obviously we've seen what Gunnar Henderson is doing. We're well aware of what he's doing. What I think a lot of people around the game don't realize is that he's on pace to have potentially the best single season in Baltimore Orioles history. And that's not to mention the records he's setting as a shortstop, which he's only, chasing Alex Rodriguez, it seems, at this point, assuming Gunnar stays healthy and is able to keep up a similar pace. So really exciting to see. He's without a doubt an MVP candidate. I think if the season ended right now, he gets the nod over Judge. I got my fingers crossed that Judge is going to slow down a little bit, but as long as he's healthy, he's going to keep hitting homers. I have Gunnar Henderson, a preseason bet to lead the league in home runs. So I'm hoping that that Judge slows down a little bit, or Gunnar
Does he have
Henderson
to
picks it
lead
up.
the
But
majors or the
Gunner's
American
done
League?
everything we've asked.
The majors, because
The majors.
Otani's up there
The
too.
majors.
Oh,
That's true. Otani, I think,
I
is at
think is
25.
he at
One
25?
behind Gunnar, or did
I
he
think
hit
he's at
26?
25. I think he's at 25. Yeah, I think that Gunnar is going to end the season with 49 home runs. For some reason that number just
You don't
I
you don't
think
want to give him
49 just
50?
stands out to me. I just think he ends the year with 49 home runs. But I could also see him hitting 60. You know what the crazy thing is? We've never seen him hit 3 home runs in a game. He's never had a 3-homer game, but he just seems to hit a home run every other game.
Are you telling me that Pedro Severino is a
I'm
better
telling
home
you,
run hitter
Pedro
than Gunnar
Severino,
Henderson?
Nick Markakis, Ryan Mountcastle, Roberto Alomar, Cal Ripken, Chris Davis.
Chris Davis.
I think that Manny Machado, they're all better home. No, Gunnar Henderson. It's so crazy, man. Like I feel like we're so spoiled in Baltimore. Like we're not spoiled in terms of like winning. You know what I mean? They haven't won a World Series in 41 years, but you look at the history of shortstops with this team. You go from you have Mark Belanger to you also have Luis Aparicio, you have Mark Belanger, you have Cal Ripken, then you have JJ Hardy, then you get Manny Machado, then you get Gunnar Henderson. It's like legitimately we are and then you also look at third base too, where you have Brooks Robinson, Cal Ripken, you had Manny Machado at third base. Mike Bordick was a really good shortstop, but people don't like realize just how good of a shortstop he was. And offensively, he was a good player too. Yeah. Like he didn't seem like a good player for his era because like he would hit 260 with 14 home runs, but a shortstop that hits 260 with 14 home runs these days is a pretty damn good player. Back then your shortstops were Alex Rodriguez, injecting steroids in the morning and hitting 3 home runs in the evening. You know what I mean? So we've been spoiled with the left side of the infield in Baltimore, and Gunnar Henderson may be the best of the bunch. Like what he's doing right now at the age of 22, he's about to turn 23 years old. He is arguably the most impressive player we've ever seen in Baltimore. I remember saying that exact same thing about Manny Machado, and Gunnar offensively, I think he's better.
And he turns 23
today's his birthday.
It's insane what he's been able to do at such a young age. And God, we just blank
3
check
home
him,
runs
please.
for Gunnar Henderson on his birthday. Let's do it.
Hey, I would love it. Give him 4, catch up to Aaron Judge.
Yeah. So what does the contract look like for Gunnar Henderson? Because this is you let Manny Machado leave Baltimore. Not just you sent him away, right? And I get it. You had to. He wasn't going to re-sign here, and they were never going to offer him. He said, "I'll sign for whoever offers me the biggest contract." Right? The Orioles were never going to play in that ballpark. They were never going to do it. Now you can. You've got 3 billionaires as part of your ownership group, and you've got T. Rowe Price as a main sponsor for your team. They absolutely can play in that ballpark. I put out there the other day 18 years, $900 million. Who says no? That's not realistic. But 12 years at $600 million, I think 100% is realistic, and I think that maybe that's not where they should start. But you've got a 23-year-old kid who is might be the best player in all of baseball right now in just his second full season. Where does that contract start and where does it end?
Dude, I have no idea.
It's got to be $50 million a year. Like you can't lowball this kid.
Yeah, all I know for sure, Paul, is that you have to find a way to keep Gunnar Henderson an Oriole for life. And you have to. We cannot go down that road.
If it's not for life, it's into his 30s. If you have Gunnar Henderson in Baltimore for 12, 13 years, and then it's like, all right, man, you're 34 years old, your production's starting to decline. We've got younger guys that can play shortstop now. Like, we want to keep you around, but we can't give you top dollar. You can live with that because he's still known as an Oriole when he goes into when he goes into the Hall of Fame. He's probably going in as an Oriole. You have to make Gunnar Henderson an Oriole for the next decade plus. You have to. I think you have.
Yeah. And if he's in a different uniform when he's
I'll throw up.
28,
I'll
like
throw up.
something has
I'll
gone
throw up.
terribly
Like literally,
awry.
I will
Yeah.
throw up live on air. Even if I don't have a show, I will do a show just to throw up over it.
I saw a tweet that was like, if Gunnar Henderson doesn't get signed to an extension, or if Gunnar Henderson plays on a different team, we might January 6th the warehouse, which I thought was.
I'll do it. That one, I will
100%
be part of that.
A sensitive joke, but a funny one.
Be part of that. I will 100% be part of that.
Yeah.
Adley Rutschman,
give him a blank check. Give him whatever he wants.
Adley Rutschman, I think needs a contract extension too. Like, you've seen how important, and he is the best. I mean, he's hitting 300 with 15 home runs and 55 RBIs in the midway point of the season. I mean, what catcher does that? Like, Adley Rutschman needs to be an Oriole for life. Also, maybe not for life, but he needs at least a 6 to 7 year contract extension. Keep in mind, he's like already 26 years old. So, all right, take to rake, Ryan. You took Tony Taters last week, and all Tony Taters did was go 3 for 23 with a home run and 2 ribeye steaks. I took Gunnar Henderson. It was the easy choice because he's Gunnar Henderson. Look, Santander was a easy choice too. He's just been mashing baseballs, and he got cold.
He's got a case of the pop-ups again, I hate to say.
So Gunnar Henderson, 9 for 25, 2 home runs, 5 RBI, 1107 OPS. It was close, but I think I won this one.
I'll give you the nod,
so
Paul. I'll give you the nod.
That ties things up. Ryan and the guests in Ryan's place have 3 wins. I have 3 wins, and there has been 3 ties. Who am I going to take? Who am I going to take? Because I can't. I know who you're going to take too. I can't.
we're just going to be swapping it back and forth for the rest of the year.
Gunnar. Who do I want to take? I'm going to take. No. Last time I did it, it bit me in the butt. I'm not going to do that. Give me F. Jordan Westburg. I'm taking Jordan Westburg. I keep coming back to him. I'm taking Jordan Westburg.
Okay, I respect it. Let me think about this for a minute. Gosh, there's so many good choices here. So many guys who are poised for a big week. You know what? I'm going to take a risk here. Might be a serious risk, but I'm going to take Gunnar Henderson.
I was so sure of it. I already had it written down.
Yeah, piece of cake. Like I said, we're going to be trading him back and forth for the rest of the season. Yeah, give me Gunnar.
All right. So let's get to some fan interaction here. Going to try and get through most of these. I do have a call in about a half an hour. It's not going to take it half an hour to do these, but I do have a call at 11:45. So Adeep Mahmood, if Luis Heel continues to pitch like he has to move to the bullpen and Colton gets to 20 home runs, is he the favorite for Rookie of the Year? Mason Miller, for his 2024 standard, has slowed down a bit. It's too early to tell. You know, there's a lot of guys who got off to hot starts and maybe kind of slowing down a little bit. I think all 3 of these guys have. If Cowser can get that batting average back up to about 250 and hits 20 plus home runs, I think he's going to be a finalist. And if he's a finalist, like if he finishes first or second, the Orioles get a pick in a draft for that. So we have to hope that that's the case.
Yeah.
Colton, he showed signs. He showed signs this past week. He's got 3 home runs this past week of really like getting back into form. I don't think we can ever expect him to be the same hitter he was the first 3 weeks. That was just otherworldly stuff he was doing. But if Colton can hit 250 with a 340 on base percentage this year and hits 20 plus home runs, which I think he's going to do, the 20 plus home runs, I think he has to be a finalist for Rookie of the Year. Maybe the odds-on favorite to win it. Although Mason Miller is nasty, and I think he's a prime candidate as well.
I think so too. It's tough to place a closer in the Rookie of the Year. I don't have it in front of me. I don't know when the last time a reliever won Rookie of the Year was. Miller, yeah, like you said, Adit, he's fallen off a little bit just based on how he started the year. Luis Hill currently the favorite, although there's the risk that he's going to end up moved to the bullpen, or maybe he's lost his magic at this point. He hasn't been good his last couple
he's going to
times
be moved
out.
to the bullpen. He already is in the bullpen. Oh, Luis
No,
Hill. I thought you said
Luis
Mason
Hill.
Miller.
No. It's possible that Hill's moved to the bullpen. He's already approaching, his career high in innings if he hasn't surpassed it already. Wyatt Langford's turning it on a little bit in Texas. Wilyer Abreu, who has been on the IL for Boston, was keeping pace with Cowser for a while. But Cowser's still right there in the mix. And, I think if he's able to go on another stretch run like he has, these last few games, if he's able to continue that for a little bit, reach that 20 homer mark, I think he's absolutely going to be in the conversation. Dark horse pick, Kobe Mayo. I don't know if we have room for him, but I could see Mayo coming up and making an immediate
to do
impact.
that over the final 2.5 to 3 months of the season. It seems like every time we get a notification, it's Kobe Mayo hits another home run. Like, the guy should be here at this point. Like, he's proving with his bat. There's just no place to play him. They're like, you're struggling to find Heston Kjerstad. There's more opportunity for Heston Kjerstad at this point than there is Kobe Mayo. You're having a hard time playing him every day. To answer your question, the last relief pitcher to win Rookie of the Year 2010, Neftali Feliz for Texas. And the year before that, Andrew Bailey for Oakland. And then before that, you got to go back to Houston Street in 2005. If you recall, 1989, even though Ben McDonald made his debut, the Rookie of the Year was Greg Olson for the Baltimore Orioles as a closer for the team. Yeah. So, good comment there, Adit. Don C. Paul, Ryan, what's up, guys? I hit that like and share the live stream on X. Please do the same, guys. Everybody out there, if you're watching the show, like, share, and subscribe, and please watch our show, because we like doing it and we want people to watch. This is a really interesting one from AJ Mukherjee. Jackson Holliday and Enrique Bradfield for Paul Skeens. I don't think that the Pirates do touch that with a 10-foot pole, but it wouldn't take much convincing to get me to agree to that deal on the Orioles side. I love Jackson Holliday. I think Enrique Bradfield is an intriguing player, though I want to see his bat be a little bit better. There's no way Pittsburgh does that.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, and I think the comment, AJ, is a little tongue-in-cheek based on the exclamation points. I could be reading it wrong, but like you said, look, I think I would do it. If that was on the table, I think I would pull the trigger. And I've been thinking over the last couple months, we saw Jackson Holliday come up and struggle a little bit at the big league level. And I'm not at all saying that has soured me on Holliday in the slightest, because it hasn't. I still think he's going to be an absolute superstar. But I've been thinking, like, Jackson Holliday could turn out to be a complete bust, and the Orioles would be fine. Like, it's crazy to think that, because he's, arguably the number one prospect in all of baseball. He's 20 years old. We know what he's capable of doing, but he could not work out, and I don't think it would hurt us that much. So, to get a pitcher like Paul Skeens, I mean, you got to give up someone like Holliday, and again, the Pirates aren't going to do this. There's next to no reason to believe they'd have any interest in even considering moving Paul Skeens. But if that was on the table, man,
how about Jackson Holliday and Enrique Bradfield for Julio Rodriguez? You wouldn't do that?
No. Have you seen Julio's numbers
last year? Before at this exact point in the season, he was in Tuesday.
Yeah, that's true. He was. He got off to a rough start last year, too.
I posted this because somebody said that the Orioles got the better. Even though Adley didn't win Rookie of the Year, the Orioles got the better player. And yeah, he's hitting what is he hitting right now? 260 something with 7 home runs. But last year at this time, he was hitting 238, 13 home runs, 42 RBI. And then the rest of the year, he hit 312 with 19 home runs and 61 RBI. And he had that 4-game series where he had 17 hits. Like, Julio Rodriguez is about to take off. And if the Mariners add, because also think about the lack of protection that he has in that lineup is bad. And if the Mariners add offensive pieces to their team, Julio Rodriguez could have a monstrous second half of the season. I'm particularly glad that the Orioles are catching him before they add any offensive firepower, because with that pitching staff, I think the Orioles can win a series out there, just because I think their offense is that much better than the Mariners offense. But with that pitching staff, You never know. Anyway, Paul and Ryan, is there any chance of us signing Corbin Burnes? I think you got to do everything possible to sign him, but I think that contract starts at the contract negotiations start at 8 years, $320 million. I that's where I firmly believe that I believe that's about what he gets. And are you going to give him 8 years, $320 million, and then at some point give Gunnar $50 million a year, and at some point give Adley $25 million a year? And Adley's going to want more than that, honestly. If he's not going to take half of what Gunnar's getting, right? So, are you going to be able to pay all of those guys? I'd love for them to sign Corbin Burnes, and maybe they'll view it as more pressing need because Gunner's still under team control, and so is Adley. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on the length. Look, we know that Corbin's going to test free agency. That's been his plan all along, and I don't think he's straying from that plan. He was asked, I believe, I don't know if it was in New York or something, but he was asked recently about what he's going to be looking for in the offseason. And he kind of just said, I want to win. I want to be on a team that is going to be competitive. And the Orioles fit that mold. And he seems very comfortable here. He seems like he's having a great time. He's pitching very well. I will say, when you think about a long-term contract for a guy like Corbin Burnes, obviously he's an exceptional pitcher. And I think he's going to pitch at a high level for many more years. The one red flag is the strikeout numbers have been down for him. He's not missing as many bats. Now, he had 19 whiffs in his last start, which was, I think, his season high. So, maybe the strikeout numbers will start to creep up a little bit. But if there is a red flag with signing Corbin Burnes, it's that, and that he's, been giving up a little bit more contact. But, we see with veteran pitchers, even when the strikeout numbers start to dwindle a little bit, they still find ways to get guys out. Burnes is consistently pitching into the 6th, 7th inning for us, allowing, 2-3 runs or less. Typically, he had one bad start and he still gave us seven innings, 4-run ball. So look, I would love to keep him around. I think it's going to be a bidding war with him in the offseason. And I think whether he ends up coming back to Baltimore is going to be a matter of if he's willing to settle for a 4 or 5 year deal so he can test free agency again when he's 33, 34 years old, or if he wants a long-term, get me to retirement kind of contract. So
it's crazy, man. I said after Corbin Burnes' start in Chicago, I love Corbin Burnes, but he's been really more like a number 2. He's just not going 7 innings. And then Dylan put me in my place on this show the next day. I got blasted for it. And all he's done since I made that comment is go 7 innings in 5 of his last 6 starts. What he's doing right now, he might be having his best season ever. He might be having his best. I mean, the ERA is down to 2.28. He's got 106 2/3 innings pitched. He might be having his best season ever. And he's doing it at the exact perfect time, for the Baltimore Orioles in the heat of a pennant race in the American League East. The fact that his 106 2/3 innings isn't leading the majors is kind of mind-boggling to me. It's kind of mind-boggling because that's a lot of innings in 17 starts. But
he's gone at least 5 innings in every start. He's gone at least 6 in all but 3. And you're familiar with game score on Baseball Reference? How that's calculated?
I know I've heard of it, but I don't know how it's calculated.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it is, but I know it's like, the amount of outs you get, the amount of strikeouts you get, hits, walks, homers, all that stuff runs subtracted. His worst game score of the season, Paul, is a 46, which is still, that's not that bad. And that was his 5 2/3 inning, 9 hit, 2 earned run, 3 strikeout appearance against the Royals back on April 3rd. That's his worst start of the year.
What's a good game score? Isn't it like 98 or something like that? Isn't it like
98's like there have been no hitters that haven't had a 98. But yeah, I think 100 is the max.
I think John Means' perfect game was like a 99 or something like that.
I mean, a good game score, like let's put it in context here. 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts was a 56.
The strikeouts are real. Look at his first one. 77 is still his benchmark for the year. 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, no walks, 11 strikeouts, and he only had a 77 for game score.
So look, if his range is going to be 46 to 77, you're taking that all day.
Absolutely,
all day.
All right, we gotta get moving here. We gotta do rapid fire here. Paul and Ryan from Don C. Is there any chance we can pick up a controllable starting pitcher with 2 years left at the trade deadline? Yeah, I mean, you've got Garrett Crochet out there. You've got who else is out there that has team control? There's another guy. I mean, Lizardo, but they're not going to make that trade. You've got a couple of guys. Yeah, Scooble. But did you see? You know what? That's not rapid fire. I posted about yesterday. If you didn't see it, go check out my page about Sports Illustrated. Piece of garbage. Yennier Cano is scaring me, guys. I think they need to not put him in high leverage situations. Dumb as that sounds, they really need 2023 Cano. They really need 2023 Felix Bautista too, but neither of those guys exist right now. AJ says the rehab numbers mean nothing. Chris Holt will have him ready. Mean Dean is going to be that nasty dude calling it now. Like, I just don't agree. I think he's good, but I think that if you get a 4.20 ERA out of Dean Kramer, I think if you get anywhere from a 3.8 to a 4.20 ERA out of Dean Kramer, that's all you really need. I don't think he's going to be Mean Dean, that dude. Like, when you have guys like Grayson Rodriguez and Corbin Burns in your rotation, like, he's going to pale in comparison, in my opinion. Thoughts, Ryan? I know you love Dean.
I do like Dean. Again, I agree that the rehab numbers don't mean much. But we'll see. We need reinforcements. That's all I know. And I think Dean can be that guy. We need him to be a 3 or a 4. And I think
AJ talking about Trevor Bauer, bro. You can't call him a scumbag of a human being. He's been accused and not convicted of anything. Two of the women have been proven to have lied. Why did Mookie Betts vouch for him to be such a scumbag? I just talk. I mean, like, look, maybe he's never done anything wrong to a woman. I think he's a douchebag. Like, I just don't think he's a good person. Like, whether he did something wrong to these women or not, I think I can't curse on the show like that in the way I was about to. I think he's a complete and utter douchebag. Like, you like him, but like Ryan made the great point that Trevor Bauer would not be good for this clubhouse because all he cares about is himself. Like, he is very clearly a very selfish, self-oriented player. We talked about how he showed up Terry Francona for taking him out of the game by throwing a ball over the center field wall 300 feet away. Like,
look, again, even if he is innocent of all these accusations that have been thrown around, maybe he would fit in seamlessly. Maybe he's not that bad of a guy. Maybe he would, dominate the American League. We don't know that. But the fact of the matter is there's a reason he is dominating in Mexico right now. There's a reason all 30 teams have said, we don't want to touch him with a 10-foot.
We got to go. We got to.
So I don't. Yeah, I don't see the Orioles being the team to take a chance.
Then he said, you did wonders for the clubhouse by trading for Jack Flaherty. I mean, Jack Flaherty was like, his attitude changed because he sucked and was having a hard time dealing with that. Like he got here when you saw when he had the confidence to pitch well, you saw like what he did, but he lost that confidence very quickly. And I think that he was, I don't want Jack Flaherty back. Like, I don't want him here either. Like, that your argument's fueling my point. Then AJ said we can agree to disagree on this one. Don, Paul,
there's always going to be
Paul and Ryan. Don't we have a 30-year-old pitcher in the minors killing it? I can't remember his name, but could he get the call up? Was that Vespi?
Is it Julio Teheran? I think he's like 30,
and he's certainly not killing it.
I don't know.
The minors.
I'm not sure. Could be missing somebody, but I
would. AJ says I would love Max. Never thought about it, but Bochy still thinks they're in it, which they are. Yeah, the Rangers schedule down this headed towards the deadline. It's not insurmountable. They can make a comeback. I really hope they don't because I really want Max Scherzer. But Josh Coleman, would you guys give up one of our top 3 prospects for Tariq Skubal from the Tigers? So you're talking, are you giving up Holiday, Mayo Basayo? I don't know. I don't want to give up. I'm okay with giving up Basayo. I am. Like, Adley's the catcher here. Are you going to move him to first base? I think Kobe Mayo ends up at first base, and I like Basayo. But if the Orioles trade Basayo for a controllable ace starting pitcher, I'm not going to cry about it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'd be okay with giving up Basayo.
Yeah.
Holiday, I just think that you'd be selling too early on him, and Mayo, like, the dude just mashes baseballs. I think he could be a 40, 50 homer guy at the big league level. And a right-handed batter with that kind of power, you really, really need that. Every team would sign up for that.
If any of the 3, Basayo for me as well. Although he's hitting 115 mile an hour Rockets at
Sorry,
Double-A,
Ryan. I didn't mean
so,
to not give you a chance there. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. I know you're itching to go. I know you got something going
No,
on. That's
the
pretty
Astros.
much all I
He was
have.
talking about. Let's see.
The Astros did win the division by virtue of the tiebreaker. I don't remember how it all played out. I just remember, it was those three teams vying for those spots. But the whole point of that conversation was that if the Rangers think they can find a way to get into the playoffs, even if they are 10 games under 500 in a couple weeks, I don't see them selling.
Then AJ said, "You are wrong." Yeah, no, I said I was wrong. I'm the one who said no. The Rangers won the division. No, but
the Astros won the division.
No, they didn't. We determined the Rangers won the division last year.
Astros had the tiebreaker. They both won 90 games. I looked it up when I saw AJ's comment
because it said that Texas was first in the division. Really?
Yeah.
Now I got to look it up. I know you said you looked it up, Brian. I'm one of those people where it's like I don't disbelieve you. I have to see it myself to believe it. Yeah, it has Rangers in second, but then if you click on the Rangers team, because I thought it was the Astros, and I clicked on the Rangers, it finished first in the AL West. That's what if you go to the 2023 Texas Rangers page, 90 and 72 finished first in the AL West. They finished second.
I think is that on Baseball Reference? Yeah, that they would show that as first because it was by standings it was a tie, but yeah, Houston was the 2 seed. Houston was the 2 seed. Actually had the first round bye. They faced the Twins in the division series. Texas was the 5 seed. They went to Tampa Bay, who was the first wild card at 99 wins.
Yeah. So I thought it was the Astros, and then I saw the Baseball Reference page said that they finished that the Rangers finished first. I was like, oh, I didn't remember that, but all right. Better story if either got selected to start the All-Star game, Mountie or O'Hearn. O'Hearn. It's O'Hearn. Mountie's a former first-round pick who's had success at the big league level. O'Hearn didn't really have success except his first season and last year, and now this year. You're talking about a guy who was averaging like a 70 OPS plus the 4 years in between.
Yeah, he was a 5-year crappy Kansas City Royal designated for assignment. Orioles took a flyer on him. He started last year at AAA and has turned himself into an All-Star finalist. Without a doubt, the better story. I love Mountie. Shout out to Mountie, but O'Hearn's the better story there for sure.
I gotta go. I gotta go. I'm sorry. This show's already gone an hour and 36 minutes, and I gotta make a call here in less than 10 minutes. So unfortunately, I gotta go. There's so many good comments in here though. Randall says Bauer will never play in MLB again and own the MLB shortly.
I don't know.
I think that
half of that
he's saying that he's going to sue Major League Baseball. I get stuck. I get stuck when anybody calls it the MLB because that's not how you say it. And then Bassiah would be a career DH. I think Bassiah would. I don't know that he probably. I mean, look at how big he is at that young age.
Maybe.
And I just don't think that they unless he plays first base, and the Orioles have other options. But all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning. I'm sorry, Ryan. I always cut you off.
You're good. I agree with you.
Fair enough. All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Without you, we certainly do not have a show. Without our listeners, our fans, without our sponsors, we do not have a show. Want to thank everybody that's tuned into the show. Want to thank Ryan for joining us for the show as always, and for doing the notes last night while I tried to work to support my family. I certainly do appreciate that as well. Until next week, see you.